The film opens with chaos in a city as people violently attack each other during an escalating outbreak. 4 hours earlier, before the full-scale mayhem unfolds, the story shifts to Whitendale Medical Center, a secure facility where doctors and researchers investigate the cause of death of a man lying before them. Leading the study is Zoe, a brilliant and determined scientist. After a thorough examination, the team concludes that the man died from a severe case of influenza, which congested his lungs and left him unable to breathe. Once the session ends and the team disperses, Zoe conducts a routine blood sampling on Max, a man with an extraordinary immune response. His blood exhibits resistance nearly 100 times greater than normal, making him a potential key to combating diseases. Max harbors deep feelings for Zoe, silently expressing his obsession by carving her name onto his arm, staining it with blood. Disturbed by this, Zoe becomes frightened and tries to distance herself. Sensing her discomfort, Abby steps in and escorts Max out of the room. Later, Zoe and Abby attend a party organized by the medical staff, a brief escape from their demanding work. During the gathering, a man named Peter approaches Zoe, asking for help retrieving drinks stored in the morgue's cool storage area. Peter leaves first, leaving Zoe in charge of the drinks. Suddenly, Max reappears and aggressively approaches Zoe. Before she can react, the corpse they had examined earlier suddenly reanimates and bites Max right in front of her. Horrified, Zoe flees and rushes to warn the partygoers to leave immediately. And soon, the entire area is overrun by zombies. In the ensuing chaos, Zoe escapes through a window. 5 years later, Zoe, now a survivor, finds refuge in a mountain bunker alongside a group of soldiers. She dedicates her time to developing a vaccine in hopes of restoring humanity. During one of her routine searches for an antiviral cure, a distraught woman reports that her young daughter, Lily, is suffering from a dangerously high fever and body-wide pain, signs that Zoe's previous treatment is no longer effective. Zoe urgently approaches Miguel, the bunker's leader, who is holding a staff meeting. She warns that Lily is showing symptoms of a highly contagious pneumonia, which could wipe out everyone in the bunker. She urges Miguel and his team to return to her former hospital to retrieve enough antibiotics to save Lily. After a tense debate, Miguel finally agrees, and they schedule the mission for the next morning. At dawn, the team sets out, led by Baca, Zoe's boyfriend and Miguel's younger brother. While traveling, their vehicle breaks down due to a damaged radiator, forcing them to spend the day repairing it. As night falls, they drive through a foreboding forest, where the distant sound of approaching zombies heightens their fear. Luckily, Lucy swiftly fixes the vehicle, allowing them to narrowly escape an incoming horde. Upon reaching the abandoned hospital, the team quickly enters the pharmacy to secure the much-needed antibiotics. After gathering the supplies, the team heads back to their vehicle. Unbeknownst to them, Zoe decides to stop by the adjoining research room, a place where she once spent countless hours studying. Without realizing it, she is being watched. A zombie lurks behind a door and then suddenly reveals itself. Terrified, Zoe flees but inadvertently leaves behind a piece of her clothing. Almost immediately, the zombie picks up her scent and begins tracking her relentlessly, as if compelled to follow her wherever she goes. Meanwhile, the soldiers realize that Zoe is missing and start searching for her. Amid the confusion, a zombie manages to bite a man named Frank. With his infection spreading rapidly, the team is forced to leave him behind. Eventually, the survivors retreat to the bunker, unaware that the zombie following Zoe has clung to the underside of their vehicle. Once inside, it sneaks into an air duct, waiting for the right moment to strike. Back at the bunker, Zoe administers the antibiotics to Lily, who has been anxiously waiting. As time passes, Lily's condition begins to improve. However, the persistent zombie continues tracking Zoe's lost clothing. When it spots Zoe and Baca kissing, it appears visibly agitated, almost as if it's jealous. Later, as Zoe checks on Lily, another zombie, seemingly fixated on her, begins stalking her through the ventilation ducts. Soon, she finds herself face-to-face with a reanimated creature blocking her path. Panicked, she runs and presses the emergency button, triggering an alarm throughout the entire bunker. Trapped in a dead-end corridor, Zoe notices a chilling detail. The zombie has her name carved into its arm. The horrifying realization dawns on her. This is Max, the man who had once obsessively pursued her. As Zombie Max moves closer, the team arrives and opens fire. Just as they are about to kill him, Zoe steps in, blocking their attack. She insists that Max must not be killed, explaining that he could be the breakthrough she has been searching for. His blood may hold the key to saving humanity. Reluctantly, the team follows Zoe's orders and restrains Max with special chains. Testing whether he retains any rationality, Zoe carefully extends her arm near him. Remarkably, he does not attack. Determined to find a cure, Zoe collects a blood sample from Max, hoping his extraordinary immunity can stop the outbreak. Shortly after, Baka enters the research room and reminds her that in order to validate her vaccine, she will need additional blood samples from other infected subjects. Though Baka is hesitant, recalling the heavy toll their past missions have taken, he eventually agrees. Together, they begin formulating a plan to retrieve the necessary specimens from the facility's perimeter gate. As Zoe and her team begin collecting blood samples from a controlled number of zombies, the gate is opened. However, the dead surge into the bunker faster than expected. The guards struggle to contain the breach, and many soldiers are quickly overrun and infected. Unaware of the full extent of the disaster, Miguel, the bunker's leader, enters the research room and is shocked to see a fresh carving of Zoe's name on Max's arm. Misinterpreting this as a sign of a personal connection, Miguel assumes Max is Zoe's lover. Zoe desperately tries to restrain him to prevent further violence. Moments later, one of Miguel's subordinates warns him of the zombie horde flooding the bunker. Enraged by the chaos, Miguel reacts swiftly, eliminating an infected woman on the spot to prevent the spread. Furious over the consequences of Zoe's plan, he decrees that Max must be executed within the next 12 hours, no exceptions. Baka, however, challenges his brother's decision, insisting that Max is the same man who once harbored an unhealthy obsession with Zoe. Despite Baka's protests, Miguel remains resolute. Later, Baka finds Zoe in her quarters and demands the truth about Max. With a heavy heart, Zoe confesses that Max's behavior in the past had been disturbingly predatory, a nightmare that continues to haunt her. Back in the research area, Zoe is joined by two colleagues who bring her a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, Lucy approaches Max and taunts him. But when she gets too close, Max suddenly shoves her against the wall. Al, another soldier, tries to intervene, but in the chaos, Max secretly snatches a key from Al's belt. As Zoe remains focused on finalizing the vaccine, Max, now free from his restraints, launches a sudden attack on her. Reacting quickly, Zoe defends herself by throwing a corrosive chemical at him, forcing him to recoil. She then dashes out of the room and finds Baka, urgently informing him that Max has escaped. As they rush back to the research lab to search for him, an emergency alarm blares, summoning everyone to assemble. Amid the confusion, they see Lily running frantically, chased by her infected mother. Without warning, Max appears, brutally killing Lily's mother before abducting the terrified child. Determined to save Lily, Zoe confronts Max, pleading with him to let the child go and take her instead if he truly came for her. After a tense exchange, Max releases Lily and takes Zoe instead, leading her toward the bunker's exit. At that moment, Miguel, Baka, and the remaining soldiers arrive, opening fire on Max while fending off the advancing zombies. In the chaos, Zoe breaks free from Max and runs after Lily, who is fleeing toward the outside. Meanwhile, the swarm of zombies floods the bunker due to Max's actions, spreading uncontrollably. Miguel scrambles to shut the gate, but Baka insists they can't leave Zoe behind. Their distraction proves fatal. Zombies attack, and in the struggle, Miguel is bitten. Baka, who rushes after Zoe, is also bitten on his shoulder. After catching up with Lily, Zoe devises a plan to eliminate Max once and for all. Luring him into a trap, she ambushes him and delivers a final, precise strike, severing his head. Meanwhile, Baka, feeling the onset of infection, considers ending his own life. Just as he prepares to pull the trigger, Zoe intervenes, convincing him that the vaccine she developed may still save him. After a series of emergency tests, an astonishing discovery is made. Baka's condition stabilizes, and he shows no signs of the grotesque transformations typical of the infection. With proof that her vaccine works, Zoe broadcasts an urgent message to the world, calling for survivors to seek refuge at the High Rock emergency bunker. She announces that her vaccine can successfully prevent humans from turning into the undead. The film concludes on a hopeful note, as the bunker survivors share a moment of relief and optimism. For the first time in years, the future holds promise. Hope replaces despair. And with that, the film comes to an end. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.